I set a very, very big standard that even when I left, it was difficult for him to fit in immediately. Somebody else became chairman. So they now went and lobbied him and brought him to become my opponent as National Secretary. Thank you, viewers. You're welcome back to the stories of my life. In the last episode, I told you how I was discouraged from becoming National Secretary, or persuaded not to, because there was fear that if I do, I will push away the Assistant National Secretary then. And of course, I accepted. And then when I was to become National Secretary of the profession, there was serious oppositions from quarters I never expected. Some people who are kingmakers in Lagos branch came over to Abuja to search for somebody within Abuja that can, since they felt that my powers or my followership was more in Abuja. Guess who they approached? They approached the young man who was my vice chairman when I was chairman of FCT Abuja in the profession. Of course, who, by our standard, could not meet up playing the role of being a vice to Roland Abonta. I set a very, very big standard that even when I left, it was difficult for him to fit in immediately. Somebody else became chairman. So they now went and lobbied him and brought him to become my opponent as National Secretary. And of course, the Abuja members rallied round, pleaded with him, told him not to challenge their chairman that have done very well. But the young man insisted. And I felt again threatened. I felt that I have put in enough effort, and so the only way to go about it is to put in all that I can and put my best. And that's what I did. At a point, I relocated to Lagos so as to go house by house, office by office, to meet members, just to convince them that I was a better candidate between me and my vice here in Abuja. And of course, I told you some of my achievements as branch chairman. Those were the things that were speaking for me. Among the elderlies, there wasn't too much difficulty, but the younger ones were of divided opinion. But this same hand of God made it possible. In that election, it was a landslide victory for me. And so I became the National Secretary of the institution in 2012. I'll try to fast track these stories. In 2014, there was another serious contest where I had 4 of my seniors challenging me, because after being National Secretary, I now moved on to plan to be the second vice president of the institution. I just did, I think, 1 year as an official member and went to contest for second vice president. If you ask me where my strength was coming from, if you ask me where my funding was coming from, I cannot tell. But somehow, God made provisions wherever it was happening, because to contest a national election in my profession, you need to be everywhere. I went as far as Bauchi, went to Kaduna, went to Kano, went to down south. There is no part of Nigeria or geopolitical region I did not go to. And there were 4 of my seniors. One of them was Director of Lands, Federal Lands in FCT, Abuja here. And 2 others were, I was in no way qualified to stand before them to say I'm contesting any election with them, because they were all my seniors. And I devised a strategy. I approached them one by one and said, "Oga, leave this thing. Thank you. This is the time for we young people to help to do this work." One of them told me that you can't retire me before my time. To my face, boldly, I'm going to contest. After all, Lagos people do not want you. Again, Lagos branch, which had overriding influence in the affairs of the institution because of the population. Again, a second time, I had to relocate to Lagos. I was in Lagos Monday to Friday, come here, do weekend, and go back for the purpose of telling them again, as National Secretary, I have kept a good record of myself. Allow me to be a second vice president. That election took place in Uyo. And it was so glorious when the result was announced that the heavyweights gave way and Abonta became the second. I think it's my most celebrated election in the profession because it was tough, it was also tedious. But again, God helped me. And then I moved on to first vice president, which is the only one nobody challenged me. But then when it was time for me to be president, the director of lands, of blessed memory now, who challenged me when I was coming in as second vice president, now left me finish first vice when I was to become a president. He now came up. Well sponsored, thank you. Again, by some groups in Lagos, as he mentioned everywhere that they don't want me. And I said, don't this man know that they have said such things before in the past concerning me, and what they wanted did not supersede what God wanted. But again, there is no man contesting election, and they tell you that you are being challenged by a big width. During our campaign, he was one of those that did the whole valuation of foreign missions of Nigeria abroad. He led the team actually, and from there he was sending us pictures of how good he was doing in the work as a professional. And then local me, what did I have to show except that I had God? And anywhere we met, I will keep talking about that God will make it come to pass. And of course, in 2018, in the city of Ibadan, I was elected the president of the profession. And it was wonderful and glorious, well celebrated. Time will fail me in this episode to talk about what God, specific things God used me to achieve in the profession as a president, which are things you can touch, you can see and feel, which even made my worst political enemies to be at peace with me and to agree that God must have used me. It wasn't me that did those things. Thank you. That will come up in our next episode. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Abonta's stories keep getting more and more interesting. I heard, he told me when he wanted to contest as president. I didn't believe it, but I put a bold face on it. He said, go and pray. Pray for me. And my wife and I did pray actually. But I didn't know, I wasn't myself convinced. I'm confessing to you now. Because of the big names I knew in that profession. Abonta became the national president of the National Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers in Nigeria. Abonta, from Akwete of Undaoki community in Abia State. Only God can do such things. He will tell you more about how it happened and how God helped him. In the meantime, please do not forget to subscribe to our channel so that any clip we send, you are the first person to get it. Then help us to forward the clips to your friends. Let them hear how God can take ordinary people to positions they never dreamt of. Thank you very much and God bless you.